Imagine this. In 2022, Vladimir Putin launched a full-scale invasion of Ukraine, a sovereign nation of 44 million people, declaring it rightfully part of Russia. He invoked centuries-old history and cultural ties as his justification. But let's consider for a moment a similar scenario. What if Brazil decided to do the same with Portugal? A country that once colonized Brazil, with a shared language and deep cultural roots, would that justify a modern Brazilian invasion and claim of sovereignty over Portugal? Putin's justification hinges on the idea that Russia and Ukraine are essentially one people, inseparable through a shared past. He asserts that modern Ukraine is a historical aberration, an error that must be corrected. But let's look beyond Putin's rhetoric, back into the depths of history. In the 9th century, Kiev, in modern-day Ukraine, was the heart of the Kievan Rus, the first major state of the East Slavic people. It was from Kiev that the Russian, Ukrainian and Belarusian nations emerged. Kiev therefore holds the title as the birthplace of the Russian people themselves. So does this history give Russia the right to claim Ukraine as part of its territory simply because Kievan Rus was the origin of the East Slavs? This reasoning is a clear stretch, so let's see if this logic holds up in another part of the world. Let's imagine Brazil, a nation with its own unique language, identity and a thriving modern government, suddenly declaring that Portugal is a part of Brazilian heritage. After all, Brazil was once a colony of Portugal. Therefore, should Brazil be entitled to invade Portugal using its colonial past as a flimsy excuse to erase Portugal's sovereignty? While Brazil and Portugal share a deep history, any rational individual would understand that Brazil invading Portugal is completely unacceptable. History is undoubtedly important, but national identity is shaped by the people living in a country today, not by the ghosts of empires long past. Like many nations worldwide, Ukraine has fought tirelessly for its independence throughout its history. Their desire to maintain their identity is why the Maidan Revolution occurred in 2014, and it's why they bravely fight today to defend their country from Russian control. If Brazil invaded Portugal, the global community would unite in opposition. The world would reject Brazil using history to justify the erasure of Portugal's independence. Yet, when Russia invades Ukraine, the same flawed logic resurfaces. Brazil cannot claim Portugal today, and similarly Russia cannot erase Ukraine's sovereignty using events from 1,000 years ago. History is essential, but it should never be used to justify the rewriting of another nation's future. Russia's claim on Ukraine based on the Kievan Rus is nothing more than a thinly veiled power grab. Ukraine's sovereignty, much like Portugal's, is sacred. As we witness this conflict unfold, let us not forget that sovereignty is non-negotiable. Ukraine, like every nation, has the right to exist on its own terms. The world must unite in defending this right and ensure that the 21st century does not become a repeat of the imperialistic past.